Hey guys, this is Bob0831. So I got the question on PMC, how do I build ships? What's my process? And the aim of this video is to show you guys that. You can see here I've got several projects in the works. This guy, Dwight, that if you've been following my PMC page, this guy's been in progress since 2021, 2022, I think. At least it's at most one. You can see a little progress update, getting there. I've just been lazy and focusing on other things. But ships, here's my process. So first off, you're gonna want something. You're gonna want something for your plan. You don't need a plan, but it helps a lot. Now there are several places to get a plan. So you can see here's my plans collection. Not all these files contain plans. Some of them are also stuff within stuff. But almost all these plans came from the internet. You can find just about anything if you look hard enough, and not all of these are official plans. Now, if you can, you're gonna want an official plan. And the best place to do that is the ship design drawings archive on archive.org. They have a bunch of stuff, not everything. You will have to go other places for more modern ships a lot of the times. But you can see that guys, I don't know if it's multiple people, whoever's behind this, they dig up a lot of stuff. You can see here, I'll sort by date archived for the sake of this. You know, they update it pretty often. But again, this is a bunch of older stuff. Now, other places to look are just Google Images. I'm just trying to think of one that, if you can't get an official plan, like, let me show you guys what these plans are like. Let me show you what an official plan is like. You know, it's always going to have a bunch of extra information. It'll have the interior, it'll have top views, it'll have interior top views, it'll have side views. You want stuff like that. Now, if possible, this is definitely not needed, but if possible, you are going to want to get a plan, like, let's see, which one, here's my commercial ships. Which one of these has, you're gonna want a ship plan that has the hull lines, you know, the hull frame. Each thing here is referred to as each line, and that makes up the hull. So what you're gonna want is a plan, if possible, like here's this plan for the Visby class Corvette that I found online. You're gonna want a plan like this. This is each frame of the ship. And you can see on the side profile plan, so this is the shape here. It's on the Visby. It's very much just a big V shape. It doesn't have actually much shape to it. But, so like, this line here on the side profile equates to this position. So you can make those front profile shapes and place them according to the side profile plan. This is what a really good plan looks like. And this is not even an official plan. This is just someone who wanted to make a plan and knew what they were doing. An official plan And yes, I can show this. This was given to me by someone that got it from a Freedom of Information Act. Let's see, it's over here with ready reserve voice. You want you're gonna want Bob Hope. This is what an official line plan will look like. Now, hold on. Yeah. You can see it'll show you both front and back of the ship. You can see everything. And what you're going to do is you're going to measure each of those lines. And there's the distribution statement down here, just so you guys know this isn't a Avoid Thunder for a moment. Approved for public release. Distribution is unlimited. Now, if you ever come into possession of a plan and it doesn't say that, you want to be at least very careful with that, and at worst, you don't want to have that. Of course, that goes for official plans. An official plan will always have a distribution statement. If it's on the internet, you're good, but you know, internet's weird. But you can see it'll give you all the information on the dimensions of the ship. In the case of American ships, usually in feet. You want to convert that to meters for building a 1-to-1 scale like I do, because one block is 1 meter. But it'll show you the front, you measure them there, and you can see it'll give you the frame positions here. And if you want to, you can measure all this. I don't. Once you have the frames in place, you can kind of just connect the dots. You can theoretically, though, if you put enough time into it, even without one of these plans, get it extremely accurate. So, there's that. Now, once you equate that, let me just let's say you measure all of those plans, and it comes out to be, you know, that no ship is ever going to look like this, but, you know, each frame is like that, and the frames are spaced that far apart. I'm not going to build that whole one. But now you're going to just now you just connect the dots. You know, and almost every line is going to be kind of a long S shape like that, you know, one way or another. You can see on Tico, especially Ticonderoga class, it's a bunch of elongated S's. Some of them, they're more straight, some of them, they're not. Like, you know, some of them, they get real wacky. Like, in Emmett's class, it gets pretty long. Now, once you have a plan in place, you've got the plan somehow. Again, you don't even need a plan. I'll get into that at the end of this. But you're going to want to collect you're going to need a paint program to measure that plan. Now, what I usually use is paint.net, a program, not an online thing. So, let me get a plan that I've already converted to an image. Now, most of the time when you find plans online, they will most likely be in a .pdf file. There are all kinds of conversion services to make those into images. You want a .png, or at least a .jpg or a .jpeg. So let me get, again, just for the sake of a demonstration, a Visby class plan. So how do you actually measure this? I was talking about measuring stuff. Well, how you do that is you're going to go to Wiki, Visby class, and if you can, get these from like manufacturer websites, like here, because they are always Wiki. You know, it's not like the teachers say where everything's wrong, but you do want to get it from a primary source if you can. So length overall 72.7 meters. So you want to get your measuring tool. Make sure that's on pixels. This is not a high quality image, but it's high enough quality. So it is 1096 pixels long. You'll see down here. So you are going to want to go to a calculator, 1096 divided by the length in meters, 72.7. 15.07 that. You want to copy and paste that, put that over here in the image tab, resize, where it says resolution, you copy that in there. Now if you put centimeters, switch that to centimeters, 72.7 centimeters, and of course that's meters now, that just equates to meters. And of course if the plan is accurately scaled, it's going to be 2.4 tall. I can't confirm that right now, but it probably is. So that's how you measure stuff. And of course, so now we know total length of the whole bridge is 22.5 long. Now, obviously, if you can't find an official plan, the next best thing is, let's see here. Next best thing compared to an official plan is something like this. So now that you know where to find your plans, you know how to measure your plans, where do you get photos? Well, that will depend on the place of the country. Now, a pretty universal place to get photos is marinetraffic.com, the ship tracking service. So, for the sake of things, let me click on a ship here. Now, of course, you're going to find them at naval bases. In the case of the U.S., some key naval bases to look at are Norfolk over here on the East Coast, or San Diego over here on the West. That's where most of our ships are located. Of course, look at different naval bases if you can't find one. And you can, of course, you know, they're always out in the ocean, but if you need to, you can search for one. And once you've located your ship, you can click on it. Not that one, I think that's a sub. Hold on, let me get a ship that I know. So once you have your ship here, click Vessel Details, View All on Photos. And there you go. You've got plenty of high quality, well, varying quality, probably high quality photos. Well, not plenty, but a lot. Now, another place to get them is, now, well, they're on marine traffic, you can go ahead and copy the IMO number. That's just an identification number for the vessel. This will never change throughout the course of the vessel's life, even if it's renamed. So you take that over to a website called shipspotting.com, and you can paste that in the search bar. And now you've got a bunch more photos that people have taken from various times. And you can see this wasn't always a military cargo ship, it used to be named Saudi Riyadh. So there you go, there's those photos. Now, for official military photos, in the case of the US, you want to go to dvidshub.net. This is a US military photo repository for everything, not just Navy. But now let's put in the name of a ship, USS Hollywood Bike, and you can see they have thousands of photos. You can sort by date taken to get the most recent, and this is always high quality. Now you will need an account to download the, I'm not going to log in, but you will need an account to download the full resolution photos, but you can see they're quite high quality. In fact, in the case of the Freedom class here, almost every photo I have here is from DVids, and you can see, you can really zoom in on them, even if they're pretty far out. So now, how do I actually build the hulls of ships? Well, I already kind of went over that. Once you got the plan, you just make the frames and put them in place, and then you connect them. And that's simple. You just get all the photos you can, connect the dots so it looks good. Now, how do I go about detailing? Now, the thing is, a lot of, well, not a, there are some details that won't show up on plans. They've been added, they've been modified, you know. So what do I do when there is a detail, like some feature on a ship that I need to measure that's not there on the plan? Excuse my messy desktop, but you can download Google Earth Pro. There is a web app. I don't use it because it takes a lot of resources for the browser. Google Earth Pro is what you want. You can download it on Google Earth's website. But also, Google Earth Pro has a very useful feature that can allow you to build a whole ship without a plan if you know what you're doing a little. You can zoom in, and not every model will be as good as these are. These are all auto-generated. They don't have a human making a model for each of these. But in the case of Norfolk over here, which is where most of the ships that I build are from, you can see they're pretty high quality. You want to click on the ruler icon up here and then 3D path. Set that to meters, of course. And now you can measure features of a ship. So you can see in the case of this John Lewis class, no, this is not a John Lewis class, Lewis and Clark class, helipad is about 31 meters long. Now you want to get that exact as possible, of course. I'm not going to do that, but you can see it works, and it's very precise, surprisingly. This is all measured by satellite, so there are errors, but generally for the case of Minecraft, you're going to have to deal with errors anyway, so it's pretty great. It's a great tool. Now, of course, you can't get underwater. You're still going to have to, if you don't have plans for your ship, the underwater portion, you're out of luck. You're going to have to freehand that. Good luck. A lot of my ships from 2021 are completely free-handed, because I did not have the resources then that I do now, but, you know. So, now that you got all that, what are you going to do when it comes to detailing? How do I go about detailing? Well, where do you start? Because a lot of these ships have a lot of details. You can see here, it gets pretty scary. So let me go to a really detailed ship that's finished. So of course you're going to want to put all the weapons on first. I have a little repository of weapons here that I made. But everything else, you're just going to measure it and recreate it to the best of your ability. You can see here are my ships from 2021. I'm trying to think. You know, they're all pretty detailed. I try my best to represent everything that I can. Now, some stuff is definitely too small to represent, so I recommend not representing that if it is smaller than about a button, because a button is as small as the blocks get. So, what I always do is I choose a place to start. Usually for me, that's gonna be someplace midships that I may move to the front, may move to the back. If there's any detail to be had, I'll do the draft of the ship at the bottom. But usually it's just a process. Now, my favorite part of a ship is building a superstructure, the actual where crew will typically live and work. What's on top of the whole, the superstructure. But, you know, detailing is typically the most tedious part. If you enjoy detailing, that's great. I kind of enjoy detailing, but my favorite part is the superstructure. And so, now that you know how where to start detailing, how you go about detailing, it doesn't really matter as long as you get it all detailed. So just do what you are comfortable with. Just detail it. Go for it. Now the superstructure, I missed the superstructure. It's going to come down to measuring stuff. No real advanced shapes usually on a superstructure. For the most part, you know, they're going to be pretty boxy, in some cases especially. But, you know, you just recreate it. Oh, also the top view. Now, a lot of times those line plans will show you the top view. If you can't, you can go on Google Earth and just, you know, you go... For that, you might want the just normal line. You know, you measure back. Sure, there's 2.5 meters. You'd want it even, but you know, back there it's 11 meters wide. You can do that every once in a while and get a good idea. That's not precise at all, but you're gonna want to get it precise. But you know some key points of like how wide the hole is at certain areas, and then you can kind of fill in the gaps if you don't have a plan that shows it. Excuse me, this is the first time I'm ever talking in a video, and I don't typically enjoy talking, so my mouth is getting kind of dry. So, to wrap up, I'll talk briefly about freehanding a hull. So to do that, you're going to want to get, you know, photos of a ship in dry dock so you can see the whole thing. Here's a Freedom class. This is one of them. I forgot which one 13 is. It's not the one I built, I don't think. But you can see, I think I did okay. But you just kind of start, I mean, you're going to want to measure the top outline on Google Earth, and you're going to want to start with the keel. You always start with, you know, the outline of the ship. For simplicity's sake, you know, you Let me do a little thing. No ship would ever be quite like this, but you know, you start with the outline. You get the outline done. And then you get the top profile done. Of course, you always measure everything that you can, but and then to freehand the rest, you're gonna look at your pictures. Now, let's say I had a picture of this hypothetical ship. And now, don't worry about making things, you know, perfectly straight, like perfect rows of 2. Because let me tell you something, as long as it's like this is still a straight line as far as Minecraft is concerned. As long as it's a consistent pattern, it's good. Now, what you don't want to do is make something like now, you don't want to do like a weird jagged pattern like that. Never do stuff like this. You're gonna want straight lines and perfect curves like that. And of course, you don't want gap issues. Now, what a gap issue is when there's, you know, an example of 5, 4, 7 is a gap issue. You can see it's, again, not a straight line, but in a different direction. So, and now I'm talking about, like, you know, they're looking top down on one of these layers. You know, top down. So 545 would be good. Now, ideally, you're going to want 555 for a straight line, but that may not always happen. Now, let me keep filling in this hypothetical pole. You know, you just kind of freehanded according to the picture. I'm trying to vaguely make a freedom class hole right now by freehand. Of course, I already did it, but you know, you just fill in the hole according to the pictures. And, you know, you put enough time into it, get it correct. You know, you have enough angles. I'm looking at one angle, but, you know, a front view like this is good. You know, again, it goes back to collecting photos and reference. If you don't have a plan, get as many photos of the ship as you can and recreate it. And you can go a long way with that. Here, let me show you an example of a ship that I did that on. Now, granted, this ship is not my shining example of like. It's from 2021 or 2. SS Delmont in this case. This hole was entirely freehanded. At the time, I didn't have plans for it. I barely have plans of it now. But the hole was freehanded from like 5 pictures because this is such an unknown ship. It's not a good hole. It needs a completely redo. I'm going to get to that at some point. I actually have plans now. But, you know, you get the idea. And now a hallmark of a good hole shape, at least, whether it's correct or not, is if it at least has smooth shapes from the front. You know, you can zoom in on it and see smooth curves from the front that don't even look like they're Minecraft really. That's the hallmark of a good hole. besides, looking like the shape, you want it to at least be smooth. There were like some sort of jagged edge over here, like let's say it jutted out. You would want to fix that. Holes in real life are typically smooth, not always. Of course, they're subject to whatever design constrictions and quakes they might need or want. But typically, a ship hole will be a smooth, flowing object. So, I think that's covered the whole basics of how I build and how I would go about building as a beginner. The key points, again, are you need a plan. Well, you don't need a plan. You want a plan if you can find it. And that, if you can't find it on that ship design archive, because they definitely don't have everything, especially a bunch of modern ships, modern military ships, even more so. Look on modeling forums like earthbase.ru will have some, even though it's all in Russian. Other modeling forums. Oh, and I forgot. Another place to get plans if you're really desperate is floatingdrydock.com. Now, these are mail order. They will send you a physical plan. You're going to want G series or BU series if you are planning on buying anything here. That you can see they have a lot, and these are all either straight up official or copied official plans. And you can see the prices over here. It can get pretty expensive if you're buying a modern ship plan, because of course they may be in limited supply or whatever. I don't recommend doing this if you can avoid it. I luckily am able to do it for some of my builds. None that I've posted yet, but they will be coming out slowly. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys could tolerate my goofy voice. I'm gonna go wash my mouth out with soap after saying hate modern slang. Little tangent. But, hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys learned something. Hope you guys are gonna go build and have fun in here. And again, I'll quick look on YouTube as well for reference. Very useful. Enjoy. Have fun. Go build. Thank you for watching. Bye. And, keep up on PMC. I don't post often. I post very inconsistently. This year is my 9th year on PMC. And I do plan on getting the big projects like Dwight D. Eisenhower done. It may or may not happen. We'll see. I hope I've not been peeking the whole time. Goodbye. Enjoy. Hope you enjoyed watching.